Then comes week 18, and a decision has to be made about whether you play your starters. The decision was not to play the starters. The scenario was we were third seed, and if the Chicago Bears lost and Philadelphia won, actually we would go up to second seed. But we didn't do that. The decision of Nick Siriani was to not play the starters. Chicago Bears did lose, but so did we. So what about this decision? Well, you can't win. Hi there and welcome. My name is Martin Thomas. This is a video in a series of videos, and it's entitled Eagles to Eagles, a Brit's Perspective on Boring Basketball, and the decision of Philadelphia to not play the starters in week 18. I decided to wear my Devontae Smith shirt today to celebrate his 1,000 receiving yards in the current NFL season. So I got to the US and I tried basketball. Well, basketball is extraordinarily boring. Essentially, there are 4 quarters of 12 minutes, so 48 minutes, 5 players on the court, and they sort of run up and down, up and down, up and down. If they score in the paint, it's 2 points. And if they score outside the circle, 3 points. So you can't watch this game with a stiff neck, because essentially the movement is look left, look right, look left, right, for a long time. The game only really becomes interesting in the last 2 minutes. So you do have 46 minutes to have a little kip if you want to, and then you can wake up for the very end. So where did this crazy game come from? Well, there was a school teacher actually called Dr. James Naismith. And in 1891, he decided he wanted something to keep his kids quiet when they were indoors. So he invented this game. Actually, they didn't do any. They fell asleep, they were bored, but they kept quiet. The game was played initially with literally a peach basket and a soccer ball. If you got the soccer ball into the peach basket, then you needed a ladder to get up to take the ball out. Hoops and backboards only came into existence sort of 10 years later in the early 1900s. So how is the game played? Well, I certainly won't bore you with all the details because the game is boring enough as it is. There are 30 teams, and they're split up into an Eastern Conference and a Western Conference. And each team plays 82 games. Here is another example of massive seasons, massive number of games in American sport. The only game that doesn't have this is the NFL. And to be honest, if you had much more than the 17 games they have in a season, there would be no one left to play because they'd all be injured. At the end of that 82 games, the leaders of the winners of the Eastern Conference play the winners of the Western Conference in what is called the finals. It's played over 7 games, 48 minutes in each game. Oh my God, who needs sleeping pills? So who are the big teams, if you like? Well, current champions, Oklahoma City Thunder. And then you have teams like the LA Lakers and LeBron James, the Golden State Warriors with Steph Curry. And the dominant teams are they, actually. Golden State Warriors, LA Lakers, Oklahoma City Thunder. But over the years, to be fair, there have been iconic players and also iconic plays. The players are those such as Michael Jordan, LeBron James, Kobe Bryant, Magic Johnson, and of course Shaquille O'Neal. Iconic plays. Well, here's a couple. The first is an extraordinary defensive effort by LeBron James in 2016 when he was playing for the Cleveland Cavaliers and they went on to win the finals.
Irving drives, hop step inside, floats it up, misses. Rebound taken by Iguodala. Iguodala to Curry, back to Iguodala, up for the layup. Oh, blocked by James. LeBron James with the rejection.
Oh my goodness. Great pass by Curry, running hard by Iguodala, and superhuman defensive recovery by LeBron James.
The second is a great fight between the Pacers and the Pistons in 2004. And this was labeled as Malice at the Palace. You can see an extraordinary fight.
In 2004, the worst night in NBA history occurred, with it being known as the Malice in the Palace. After a foul with 45 seconds in the game by Ben Wallace on Ron Artest, Ron sat on the score table to have a beer thrown at him by a fan. He did the unthinkable, running into the crowd to start beating the fan. More players and fans joined in, causing a terrible scene with hundreds of fans and many players joining in.
If only all of basketball was so much fun. But that's not, so I'm going to move on from basketball. So let's move to the Eagles. That's the Philadelphia Eagles. When we last talked, the Eagles had 2 games left. Buffalo Bills, which they subsequently won, a great defensive effort in the freezing cold. Then comes week 18, and a decision has to be made about whether you play your starters. The decision was not to play the starters. The scenario was we were 3rd seed, and if the Chicago Bears lost and Philadelphia won, actually we would go up to 2nd seed. But we didn't do that. The decision of Nick Siriani was to not play the starters. What happened? Chicago Bears did lose, but so did we. So what about this decision? Well, you can't win. You clearly can't win. So here's the scenarios. Chicago Bears win, and therefore you never had a chance of getting the number 2 seed. And if any of the starters got injured, you'd be slaughtered. Alternative scenario, Chicago Bears lose. That's indeed what happened. And of course, now everyone says, well, why didn't you play your starters? Because if you'd won, you'd go up to number 2 seed. And then the worst case scenario, look, what if we play the starters and Jalen Hurts gets hurt, can't play in the playoffs? Saquon Barkley plays, gets hurt, can't play in the playoffs. So you can't win, and we will only find out in the future. As you can see, we end up playing San Francisco 49ers. If we'd been number 2 seed, we would play Green Bay Packers. I personally believe that's an easier game. But nonetheless, if let's say we played Green Bay Packers, the next game may well have been against San Francisco. So who knows? You just can't win. The game is next weekend, and I'll report back in due course. Now, there is a reason for hope, of course. We have a magnificent defense. Vic Fangio has put together probably the best defense in the NFL. There is also a reason for concern, and that is our offensive line and our offense as a whole. You know, we blow hot and cold. Sometimes we look great, and other times Jalen looks ineffective. Barkley looks ineffective. So who's to know? And then, of course, we have special teams. And our kicker, Jake Elliott, has missed a bunch of kicks this year. I actually love Jake Elliott. And he usually pulls out the stops for the big games. And that's sort of super important. And I have every hope that he will do so in this situation as well. There are 14 teams in the playoffs, and we are currently ranked 10th. I think that's ridiculous. Just think about it. A win against San Francisco, then we get the Bears or Green Bay. Now, before we move from NFL, I really want to show you a clip which is super funny. This was from this season. I think it was game 3 against the Rams. And they had this kick, a field goal to win the game. And this is what happened. So I looked up Jordan Davis, a beast of a man, 6'6", 335 pounds, which is 22 stone. Now, here's another difference between American English and British English. If you say to an American that someone weighs 10 stone, they won't have a clue what you're talking about. There are 14 pounds in a stone. If you weigh 10 stone, that's 140 pounds. It's pretty easy, but that's there's a big difference. Anyway, amazing play, and he will be fit for the playoffs, and I will report back in due course. So let's move on to Crystal Palace. The other Eagle. When we last spoke, we had just lost nastily to Leeds 4-1. You can see in the subsequent games, things weren't great. We lost on penalties to Arsenal in the quarterfinal of the Carabao Cup. Then we lost 1-0 to Tottenham in an absolutely dreadful game. Then we drew 1-1 with Fulham. We're at home. Disappointing result. We were 1-0 up and really looked easily the best team. And then in the last 10 minutes, we decided to sit deeper and deeper and deeper, such that we barely got out of our 18-yard box. We were saying to them sort of, come on, come and score. Seems like a good idea. Which, of course, they ultimately did. And it's 1-0. And then finally, we're away to Newcastle. And, you know, the wheels come off and we lose 2-0. So we're clearly coming up against this problem of too many games as a result of success and too small a squad. We clearly need reinforcements, and I'm glad to say that has already started. We've just bought Brennan Johnson from Tottenham for £35 million, which is a club record. I hope there's more to come. We especially need someone to help JP Mateta, who's struggling to score now, and we need a proven goal scorer. The other part of the equation is Oliver Glasner. Now, I had hoped, because Brennan Johnson had talks with Oliver Glasner, that that meant, because he signed, that Oliver Glasner was staying. Maybe naive. The guy is in complete demand from throughout the world. And now Man United have sacked their manager, so the Man United job is available. So I am truly concerned. You can see that over the last few weeks, we have fallen from 4th to now 14th. Our up-and-coming games are not easy. In the 5 Premiership games that we have, I can only see us really getting 7 points out of those 5 games. And when we next talk, I'm sort of fearful we will be looking down towards the relegation area. But I hope I'm wrong. Anyway, that's a wrap for this week, or this time. Next time, I thought we might concentrate on controversial sporting moments over the previous weeks in American sport. I'm off to Costa Rica tomorrow because I need some heat. And I may well post a video from Costa Rica after the first playoff round. I'll update next time, Eagles and also Crystal Palace. So in the meantime, whichever sport and whichever team you support, please support them with passion. And I'll see you in a few weeks. Thanks a lot. Then comes week 18, and a decision has to be made about whether you play your starters. The decision was not to play the starters. The scenario was we were third seed, and if the Chicago Bears lost and Philadelphia won, actually we would go up to second seed. But we didn't do that. The decision of Nick Siriani was to not play the starters. Chicago Bears did lose, but so did we. So what about this decision? Well, you can't win.